All right, and there we go. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to our second day in this whole live stream podcast style show where we talk about several topics in the gig economy, e-commerce, and even stocks. Because yes, we will be doing a follow-up on the whole stock yesterday. There was an interesting development, so to speak. Anyway, but we are going to explain really quick what this is for those of you who are not aware, plus to give people an extra, 30 to 40 seconds to get in. This is a live stream podcast. That means we will be talking about several different things in the whole video. You can't help it, can you, Apptrepreneur? I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe you can explain it to me. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few different topics for this live stream. During these topics, I might not be interacting so much. However, I do encourage you to send your comments and your questions in the chat room, because after the topics, we will be discussing them and doing some interaction. And then tomorrow, for those of you who did not want to be here for the live stream or watch a 45-minute to hour-long video, we will be splitting up the topics into individual videos the next day. So the news might be a day late, but you will get it one way or another. Before we talk about the topics, though, I just have to share this real quick. You all know that I visited my parents recently, and by the way, they're doing fine, we're doing fine, and now we're self-quarantining for 2 weeks just to make sure that nobody caught any creepy crud. However, when I go through like my old room, still talking about Uber. Hey, Sovereign Resistance, I've been talking about a lot of things other than Uber. If you're coming to the videos about Uber, that's on you. That's on you. But so we store things at our parents' house, right? Like, our parents keep things that we own because I don't know whether they're valuable or not. And so every time I go there, there's always like a little bit of whittling down. Like, sometimes some things come back, some things get donated, some things used to go to Dimple Records, they are closed. But I hear there's a new place now, but of course that's closed. I was looking through a drawer that had a bunch of old documents and things like that, and I found something funny that I actually remember buying. I don't know why I bought it. This kind of goes to show that when we're young, we really do waste our money sometimes. But I remember buying Barack Obama presidential coin collections. And what this is, for those of you who aren't aware, these are actual quarters, dollars, half dollars that basically paint Barack Obama on the coins. And they're presidential collector's coins. And the funny thing is, when you look at like the back, it looks like it's all professional and everything. But then you look at them, it's like a cheap little paint job. I think this cost me like $15, and I bought several sets because I was going to give them out as gifts. Each one even came with a certificate of authenticity, showing that, certifying that, yes, this is about as dumb as you think it is. So, and keep in mind, this is not me saying anything bad about the president. It's just like, I look at this and it's like, boy, when you're young, you find that a lot of really dumb things to spend your money on. That's for certain. So, hey, Chris, how you doing? Glad to see you there. But anyway, let's get on with our first topic of the day. And the first topic of the day is this open letter penned by Uber's CEO Dara Khosrowshahi and the Rockefeller Foundation chief Rajiv J. Shah. And the title of the letter is American Workers Need a Better Safety Net. And you know what? This time, I'm not even going to... I think it's been going on long enough. I don't care about the demonetization anymore. We're going to say the actual C word. So, I bet you viewers have been waiting for me to do this for a while. The COVID-19 crisis has crippled America's economy, bringing unemployment to its highest level since the Great Depression. The sudden shift in economic fortunes has awoken most Americans to the downsides of the U.S. labor model. In addition to the coronavirus pandemic, current events and new attention to an old problem of systematic racism systems and their effect on black lives and livelihoods have stirred in a conviction that we must renew and not simply restore the pre-crisis status quo. Our economy has fundamentally changed. We will have to change with it. In the decade since the 2008 financial crisis, productivity in the United States has risen, but real wages have not, making it tough for people to save. Even before the current crisis hit, nearly 80% of families said they were living paycheck to paycheck with no ability to withstand an emergency. About 40% of Americans had less than $400 in savings. With the COVID pandemic, 1 in 4 American workers has filed for unemployment over the past 10 weeks. More than half the workforce has either lost a job or some income owing to illness or closures stemming from the virus. Today, 21 million Americans are not only out of work, but have also lost access to basic support like health care. And many who are still working, especially at jobs labeled essential, must choose between feeding their families and protecting their health. Giving people the ability to get through tough times is critical if we want the economy to be stronger and more resilient, and our current labor framework, which provides a safety net to some kinds of workers but not others, is not up to the task. It's a fairly long letter, but I think it's worth reading the whole thing. Our labor systems were changing even before this economic crisis. Over the past decade, tech platforms, including Uber, connected millions of people to quick access to work. But the pre-COVID status quo of safety net benefits supporting workers, particularly independent workers, has been neither sufficiently flexible nor sufficiently sturdy. America's current travails have made it clear that we need wider worker protection that don't limit benefits to one legal classification of work. I think it's supposed to be doesn't limit, but For more than a century, labor laws have created a false choice between independence and protection. It's a choice that no longer serves workers and must be reformed. A new nation survey of 1,200 likely voters conducted for the Bipartisan Policy Center, BPC, and funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, shows most Americans agree. 3 in 4 Americans, 76%, say they are not content to simply return to the same safety net systems that existed prior to the COVID-19 economic crisis. The desire for change was articulated by independents, Democrats, and Republicans alike. About the same share, 3 in 4 support more pragmatic solutions. They want fixes to the safety net such as unemployment assistance reform, the ability to take their benefits from job to job, and expanded family leave benefits. A large number also want a rollback in rules regulating certain trades so that they can take their skills across state lines without having to be re-licensed. Such regulatory reform would also allow ride-share workers, including Uber drivers, to more easily find work wherever they go across the state lines. In the current crisis, it has been heartening to see, for the first time ever, independent workers becoming eligible for unemployment assistance through the Federal CARES Act. That marks an important recognition that our economy has fundamentally changed and that choosing independent work need not mean foregoing basic protections that every worker deserves. At the same time, COVID has forced employers to be more flexible, allowing more people to work from home and on their own schedule. There is some disagreement on the best next steps, including between us. Uber has opposed efforts by legislators to require workers to choose between employment with some benefits but limited flexibility and independent work with more freedom but without basic benefits. We believe we should instead raise the standards for independent work so workers can have the best of both worlds. This includes providing these workers with benefits and protections that they can depend on when they're injured at work, get sick, want to take time off, or retire. The Rockefeller Foundation sees policies that require gig economy companies to classify workers as employees as an important step in recognizing the need for worker benefits no matter where you work and pushing these companies to take on more of that responsibility. But despite that disagreement, both of us agree what matters most is changing the status quo and working together to find a bold new way to fundamentally change the day-to-day reality for hard-working Americans. A good place to start is with a modernized federal framework that mandates protections nationwide, whether provided by governments or employers, but available to everyone, so benefits are portable across the country. This crisis has laid bare long-term systematic problems in our economy and our society. Change comes slowly when the lives of those less affected by hardships are easy, but becomes imperative during times of true hardship for all. The Rockefeller Foundation and BBC survey shows that even in our hyper-partisan era, the majority of Americans want to change how our laws protect the average worker. The path to recovery status starts with recognizing that just as our notions of work have evolved, so must the rules and benefits surrounding that work. So, yeah, that's a whole bunch of horse donkey right there, isn't it? Just a whole bunch of horse donkey. In fact, what do all of you guys think about this so far? Oh, Driver Man's here, and Naz the Gig Accountant. Well, no one's commenting on this so far, so I guess I'll go back. Keep in mind, guys, comment during the video. We will address it later on. But let's now look at this open letter. Because as usual, this is Uber, and they're now doing it in joint connection with Rockefeller Foundation, that, hey, things need to be better, and things should be better, and we need to change, and I'm going to tell you why none of what's written here matters. First of all, that COVID-19 has crippled America's economy and bringing unemployment to its highest level since the Great Depression. Yep, no kidding, Sherlock. What are you going to do about it? They say our economy has fundamentally changed. We have to change with it. Well, okay, what's your solution? And, here's something that's interesting. The first thing they do, they talk about how 80% of families are living paycheck to paycheck with no ability to withstand an emergency, and about less than 40% of Americans had less than $400 in savings. They cite how 1 in 4 workers file for unemployment. And you know what the solution to this might be? Well, maybe it would be if companies paid their employees better, maybe they could actually save money. And since Uber has a history of cutting rates, and in fact continues to cut rates this very day, I feel like they have any right to talk about whether or not their families are struggling. You know what? Their drivers are struggling from low pay. They've had ample time to fix that. They aren't doing it. Now then, they'll go to talk about how the labor systems were changing before the economic crisis. Well, yeah, because Uber and Lyft and Postmates and DoorDash and all those companies created a line of work that they said was independent. But it's really not independent. You're employees. You're still living under their boot, if you will. And they make the rules, they set the rates, they set the terms, and the only thing you can do is get on and off whenever you want. But they're saying, hey, our labor systems are changing. No, the thing is, they're changing because you're changing it. And that's why they're changing. Now, here's the rich thing. For more than a century, labor laws have created a false choice between independence and protection. It's a choice that no longer serves workers and must be reformed. I don't think that's necessarily the case. If you get a really good union job, guess what? You have protection and you make good money. And you know what? A lot of unions actually do provide flexibility. Because here's the thing. You have special needs. You need to work so many days or work certain hours because you have a kid. You know, a union and a state, well, maybe not a state job, but a union will protect that. A union will go to bat for you during things like that. So, it's not necessarily a choice anymore. And yeah, if you want independence and you give up some form of protection, that is true. But that's just kind of how it's always been. It's a choice that no longer serves workers and must be reformed. Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because here's the thing. I agree with the idea that you make your own way in life. Now, some people are dealt better cards than others. Sometimes you know someone and that gets you a job that other people might not have access to. There are advantages you can take care of that you happen to luck into. But for the most part, hey, you know what? You can be very, very successful and independent. But when you're independent, you don't have protections. That's just the way it is. Well, maybe in that case, protection is more important to you than independence. So pick protection. But, you have to make a choice. You can't be 15 forever where it's like, hey, I want to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and when things don't go my way, well, you got to take care of me. No. That is not how this works. It's not how it works. You either have to grow up and you have to strive for your independence, or you go someplace where you are protected. Now, here's the thing. I love how they bring up the unemployment during the COVID-19 crisis. Because we all know that Uber, Dara Khosrowshahi wrote an open letter for this to President Trump saying, hey, don't forget the gig workers. Like, don't forget our drivers. They need to be protected too. Well, Uber's not doing anything to protect them. Uber's not paying into the unemployment system except for their own direct employees. Uber is doing nothing to help the drivers, but they are expecting the government to protect them. And you know what the government did? The government bailed Uber out on this one. And they're going like, hey, you see, it's humbling to see the government care so much. No, the government just did not want, thousands of people without any income whatsoever. That's why they actually took this into consideration. They did something about it. But don't think this is a forever thing. You think the government's going to forget about that? They won't. They're going to remember bailing Uber out, and Uber didn't pay 1 penny to help these employees. So it's rich that they bring it up. And there is some disagreement. Of course there is. Uber has opposed efforts by legislators to require workers to choose between employment with some benefits but limited flexibility and independent work with more freedom but without basic benefits. This is a lie that Uber keeps telling everyone. No, that is not what they are forcing you to choose between. They are saying these rules mean you are independent. These rules mean you are not independent. And Uber's stance is, we want the rules that says you're not independent, but we want it to mean independent. So that's where we're heading. That's what we're fighting. We can make the changes so that it is very clear that our drivers are independent, and we could give up a lot of control of those drivers, but we don't want to give up control of those drivers. That's what is going on. So that is why Uber has opposed efforts by legislators that require workers. No, the government's not making Uber choose between employees and independent contractors. They're just saying, Uber, what you're doing is not independent. It has to be like this to be independent, and that's what Uber is fighting. Now then, they continue to talk about systematic change and everything like that. But you know what's really bugs me about all this? This is not the first time Dara Khosrowshahi has written open letters. For example, here's an open letter that he wrote with Logan Green and John Zimmer of Lyft, basically saying that, hey, we need to change the way workers make money, we need to have a fair system, and we need help doing it. Now, Uber and Lyft could easily change the system themselves, but in every situation, it's like, no, it's the government's job to change the system and tell us what to do. It's funny how Uber and Lyft were like leaders in the rideshare revolution, if you will. And now, when it's like people are really, do something, like change. They're like, hey, we'd like to, but it's the government's job. And hey, we're going to write an open letter about it. Here's another thing. Famous letter Uber wrote to Donald Trump asking for benefits and protections for the drivers. Now, Uber could be providing, the benefits and protection. They could. They certainly seem to have the money to. They're bragging that they have $10 billion. They could do this to take care of their drivers, but they don't want to. Better the government do that. Oh, and of course, who can forget Uber's letter to the Londoners after they lost their license to operate in London? Like, we can do better. We can do better. We want you better. You know what? This was 3 years ago. You know what, Dara? I don't care about your letters anymore. Take these letters and shove them. Shove them where the sun don't shine. Shove them where the excrement that you spew on a daily basis comes from. Because you know what? You are the freaking CEO of Uber. You are allowed to make changes. If you don't like that your drivers are not protected, hey, you know what? You do something about it. If you don't like what your drivers are getting paid, hey, you do something about it. Hey, if you don't like the fact that the government is saying these are employees, say, hey, what can we do so that they stay independent? They will give you those guidelines and you can follow them. But stop with these open letters. They don't mean anything at this point. They don't. It's just you trying to pontificate, if you will. And what you're doing is you're skidding on a podium. and you're getting in front of the audience, you're saying, we are fighting for you drivers, we are fighting for the public, we are fighting for change. But you know what? When you look between the lines of all these letters and all the things you are asking, a rational person should be able to point to many of the things you bring up and say, hey, if you're not happy with that, why don't you enact the change? Like, why does the government need to step in first before you do something? Remember when that girl got into a car that she thought was an Uber, and it unfortunately wasn't, and she lost her life? That is not Uber's fault. It clearly wasn't. But you know what happened? Uber came up with a new verifying system. They started the whole say my name thing, like Breaking Bad. And they did something to ensure that mistake had a much smaller chance of happening again. They pushed a new system to protect people. The government didn't need to tell them to do that. They just did it. So why is it when it comes to paying for drivers and their benefits and their unemployment and the way that they work so that they can keep their independence while still making good money, heck, even just a situation where Uber can make sure their drivers are not working paycheck to paycheck, why can't Uber just make those changes themselves? Why does the government need to come in and figure that out? I don't know, but you know what? I'm curious what you think about it. So, hey, what do you think? What do you think about all of this? Do you even believe these letters anymore? Do you think that they're a waste of time reading them? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. And with the first topic out of the way, let's go on to the next topic. And this is actually extremely outside of what we normally talk about. Granted, it deals with Amazon, but I almost never, ever talk about things like this because this is not that kind of channel. But I'm going to give Amazon credit for this. You know what? People say I'm too negative on Uber. They say I'm too negative on Amazon. Why can't you praise them once in a while? You know what? I will praise them for this. Amazon decided to take down this horrendously racist and disgusting t-shirt. Now, this is a screenshot of the listing. And it is a photo of the officer killing George Floyd. The title of the item was I Can't Breathe, Black Lives Matter, $15. Someone decided this was a good thing to make into a shirt. And then, of course, just because they're extra a-holes, guess what? They have a little kid wearing it. I mean, geez, why didn't you just make it a little black kid just to drive home the point of what a jerk you are? So, here's the thing. Actually, I didn't realize this when we were talking about it. This isn't even just a regular shirt. Like, the reason they have, like, a little boy wearing it is because this was a children's t-shirt. This was a children's t-shirt. My goodness. Now, you might be asking at this point, how on earth did something like this happen? Just how on earth? Because you know what? I don't care whether you're a Black Lives Matter or an All Lives Matter or a Republican or a Democrat or whether you think the protests are justified or whether you think they're not justified. You know what? I don't care what your thought on this is. I think we can all agree that posting a picture of someone being killed on a children's t-shirt and selling it to kids and families, that's just mind-blowing. And then, of course, you have to wonder what sick people actually bought this thing. But the way something like this happens is because Amazon has the third-party seller platform. They do. And once you sell so many things, you can sign up for a pro membership and you can start creating your own listings for your own merchandise. You can also, by the way, abuse this. I'm not saying you should do this, but you can abuse this and create a duplicate item of say a movie or a CD or a toy, something that you would normally be restricted selling, and create that listing so that you can sell that item, usually at a higher price. But you can create anything you want. And this is why Amazon's come under fire for counterfeit merchandise and things like that. because you can create anything and it looks authentic. Hey, it's on Amazon. It must be authentic. And yet you buy it, you get it, and you look at it, and it's pretty clear it's a pirated piece of merchandise. And in fact, it's interesting because someone was talking to me about GameStop on one of my videos yesterday. And one of the things I forgot to mention is, like, I tell my wife not to buy shirts and stuff on Amazon anymore with pictures. She sees a shirt with a Pikachu or a Sailor Moon on it. I tell her not to do it. Like, go to GameStop, go to Hot Topic, go someplace where you can't just create a listing and sell a pirated shirt. Only buy authentic shirts. And, you know, so that's one thing we do. Because look at what you can do with this. You can create something pretty disgusting when you get down to it. This is horrendously horrifying, and I have to give Amazon credit for removing it. Now then, here's the story. The garment available on the U.S. Amazon store for $15 was listed by a third-party reseller. In a statement to the BBC, Amazon said that the account was being investigated. The online retailer's guidelines prohibit products that depict crime scene photos. And you know what that kind of tells me? Unfortunately, that tells me that this has happened before. That someone has taken a crime scene photo meant to make people upset and to disgust them, and they put on a t-shirt and they sold it on Amazon. So the item was on sale alongside other clothing promoted by the same vendor that was targeted at supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't think this shirt was made for Black Lives. Well, maybe it was. The one thing that we don't see is the slogan, but either way, it's pretty disgusting. While the original listing is now offline, other examples of t-shirts and baseball caps featuring the same photo above the slogan "Against Violent Law Enforcement" can still be found on Amazon's U.S. site. Now, okay, let me comment on that. You know, if it says underneath "Against Violent Law Enforcement," the shirt makes a heck of a lot more sense, because, you know, you would wear that for a protest. From this, though, it just looks like someone's taking this photo and putting it on the shirt, and they're selling it to kids. I don't know. I do not know what to think about. No, I do know what to think about that. I think that's disgusting. It shouldn't be done. I do not think you should be using photos where people are getting killed, at least real people, I should say, on a t-shirt. I mean, if you want to show the death of Robin or the death of Joker or something, you know, a fictionalized character that was drawn and it was meant, you know, it came from a fictional source, you know, that's perfectly fine because it's not real, but wow. So, yeah, that just kind of goes to show you can truly find anything on Amazon. So anyway, that's that story. I am curious what all of you think. I'm going to actually take a peek right now. I don't normally do this, but yeah, okay, yeah. Well, at least one person is okay with me speaking against this, so thank you, Chris. But in the meantime, what do all of you think about this? Is this shirt in poor taste? Do you agree with this shirt? I would be very curious to understand what your reasoning for being okay with this shirt is. You know, and hey, safe space, if you will. Feel free to share whatever your thoughts are. I'm not going to say we're going to necessarily respect your opinion, but you are allowed to share your opinion on this show, in this chat, in the comments below. And then, you know, like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz. But this is definitely interesting. So, I'm losing my train of thoughts. I'm distracted by the comments. I'm going to click over here to the next story so that I'm not distracted by the comments right now. I would just like to know what your thoughts are below. And with that out of the way, it's time for the third topic in this story. And the third topic involves Grubhub. Now, we have talked a little bit about the potential sale of Grubhub to Uber, that the two companies were talking and they were, you know, hashing out the details. Also, other companies like Eat24 are also interested in buying Grubhub. So Grubhub is a popular stock right now to buy. Like, it's been doing really well. But it was brought up that a sale to Uber might be problematic because it would create potential antitrust problems. Because if Uber and Grubhub were to merge in some smaller states where they don't have 5 delivery services, they have 2 or 3, then guess what? Uber and Grubhub combining would get them way more than the 30% share that the government typically considers to be a monopoly. Because the government hovers between 30-35% on what they consider a monopoly. In some of these cases, like there would be some cities and states where an Uber and Grubhub merge would result in the company having way more than 50%. And in fact, in some cases, it could be as high as 89%. Well, sure enough, the deal might have hit a snag because of an antitrust dispute. This is from The Street. So Grubhub shares were lower after a report said that the food delivery company is disagreeing with Uber Technologies about certain antitrust concessions amid the company's talks to combine. Meantime, CNBC also reported that European delivery companies Just Eat, Takeaway.com, and Delivery Hero are now vying for Grubhub. Shares of Grubhub last week were down 6.7% to $56.45, while Uber shares were off 1.8% to $36.56. Last month, Grubhub declined a takeover proposal from Uber. That deal would have issued 1.9 Uber shares for each Grubhub share. The potential transaction has drawn the attention of government regulators who are concerned about the hefty fees the companies charge restaurants and about the status of their workers. Representative David Sicilian, Democrat, Rhode Island, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee's Antitrust Subcommittee, recently called the possible deal a new low in pandemic profiteering. The food delivery business at the two companies have thrived during the coronavirus pandemic. And then you talk about all these other things. So, here's the thing. What's being said here? What's being said is that Grubhub and Uber are still talking about merging, potentially. But they are disagreeing on certain things about the transaction. Because I think at least Grubhub seems to be aware that there is an antitrust concern here. And the lawmakers are looking at it and they're concerned. And I think Grubhub would prefer if Uber buy them. They would rather be bought by an American company, not a European company. However, there has to be certain concessions being made before they would feel comfortable agreeing to a sale, because why even get the sale started if it's going to be stopped by Congress? It's a huge headache. It wastes a lot of time. It wastes a lot of money. You'd rather not get into it at all if you can help it. But here's the thing. That is not Uber style. Uber is all about monopolies. Granted, a lot of tech companies are. If you don't think your tech company is a monopoly, they are a monopoly. Apple, Amazon, Google to a certain extent, Microsoft, they're probably the lesser of them all, though. PayPal, they're Facebook, Twitter, they're all monopolies when you get down to it. They control way more than 30% of the markets that they are in. And in Apple's case, they have such an integrated system that it's like, oh yeah, we have the phone, we have the operating system, we have the store in the operating system. We determine what goes on that store and that phone. And by the way, we charge the fee, and we're going to make the same product that the people we approve to come on the phone, and we'll price it the same so that, basically we're always a better buy for anyone, really. So it's crazy when you stop and think about it. But remember Travis Kalanick? He put the DNA in Uber that Uber was to conquer. They were to go out and they were conquer, and they were going to... One of the reasons Uber grew so aggressively is because they did antitrust things to put their competitors out of business. They would lose as much money as need be so long as the competition died. Well, those days are pretty much over. That said, I don't believe the mentality has changed that much. I think Uber is very much wanting to control the market. And so they're going to Grubhub partially because, yeah, they're ride sharing in the toilet. Totally in the toilet. However, food delivery is up, and hey, considering how long this pandemic could last, like, hey, it'd be best to buy another company, strengthen that food business so that we can stay alive, and then in the process, we can have a monopoly in several cities and in some cases even states. That's what Uber is trying to get at. And at least the way this report is talking about it, Grubhub has some concerns about that because they're looking at it's like, hey, look, we want you to buy us. We would be better off together than apart. But there are certain things we have to address because, the government's going to come after us with antitrust. We probably need to sell off some assets or something to that effect to keep the government off our back, and Uber seems to be resisting that. Doesn't surprise me because that's what Uber does. They totally want to control the market. That's always been their goal. That's what they want to do. And you can't change that. You just can't change that. So anyway, I would like to know, what do all of you think about this? Do you think Grubhub is playing cautiously? Do you think Uber is the problem? Or do you think maybe they're both having a pissing contest? Maybe this isn't even about antitrust. Maybe Uber's not offering them something they want. I would like to know your thoughts. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. And with that down, there's pretty much one more topic we wanted to do. And I forgot to log in to do this. So forgive me for a second as I log in and we do a little update on the stock. Because yesterday you might have seen that little screenshot I posted where I had gained almost $900 in a day. Primarily due to the strength of a new stock I bought that day, Nikola Corporation. Now then, it wasn't just that one stock. Everything, with the exception of a couple stocks, were up. Well, I wanted to give you an update today to let you know where it is now, a mistake that I made that cost me potentially hundreds of dollars. And I did also sell my holdings in a company. It's not going to be forever. It's not going to be for forever. It's temporary. It's just a common sense move from my perspective. I could be wrong, but I think I'm going to be right about it. And I want to be honest about it. So let's look. Remember, by the end of the day, I had gotten almost a $900 gain in the stock market. Where is it now? Oh, man. That's let's go back to the week. That's a bit of a dip. See, this was where it was yesterday, and now here's where it is today. Now, my portfolio is still up a little over $600 for the whole week. So, keep things in perspective. And a lot of it is because, Nikola, this stock did take a nosedive when the markets reopened. So, when the markets reopened, it was everything was going fine. It was high, but then it went down, down, down. Now, am I terribly concerned about this just yet? No. Keep in mind, I bought it around, not there, that's around the time that I bought it. So I'm still doing really, really well. And the fact that it went down and went up, there's definitely a sign that this thing could still be the real deal. And there's something you have to also keep in mind. Today, the entire market went down. So most of these losses aren't even contributed to this one thing. This thing went down less than it went up yesterday. So compared on this stock, I am still way ahead. But you'll notice down almost 2%, down 3.5%, down 0.50%, down 5.32%, down 2.21%, down almost 10%. Papa John's is up 4.12%. And look, this is the headline. Stocks pull back after recent rally. So yesterday was a rally and everything did very, very well. And as a result, it was just going to fall a little today. In fact, Six Flags, it was like $28, $29 yesterday. Now it's $26.29. Cinemark was over $20 yesterday. Now it's $18.20. V-Solar went up. But look, almost everything is down. And Hertz, I should have waited to buy Hertz today because that was like I bought it at like 5 something. It went up to over $6 yesterday, and now it's like a 413. Bitcoin is going up though. So, as you can see, I took a little bit of a hit. Now, the mistake that I made, and it was in the back of my mind to do this, by the way, was I was going to wake up at 6 a.m., like when the markets opened. And I was going to set my stop loss trigger, because for those of you who wanted to know why I don't use the stop loss feature for the 30-day duration, is that it doesn't work during after hours or before hours. So if I had said to sell like $85, if it went below $85 before the stock market opened, it wouldn't sell. And let's say it got down to $70 and then the market opened, then it would sell. So I always do that till the end of the day. And if it goes below that stop loss, I just hope that it goes back up again. And for the most part, it did. I think this got as low as 60 something today. Yeah, it got down to $57. But if I had woken up on time and sold it, I could have rebought the shares at a much lower price at one point. And then I would have had a few $100s to either buy extra shares or buy another company. I probably would have rebought some of my Disney stock at that point. So that's where I made a mistake. But again, I still did very well. And in fact, if you really want to know, this is a good indicator of whether or not you're ahead of the game or below the game. This option right here, total return. This is how much money you've either, gained overall or lost overall since you bought the stock. And as you can see, it's still a great return. Like, you can't complain too much about that. As you can see, a lot of things are down, but for the most part, I've gained more from these stocks than I've lost. And in many of these cases, you just wait for them to go up a little bit, and those will be gains as well. Now, there is one company that I did sell today, and it's not a sell forever. It's a logical sell. But I sold AMC. And I profited about $15.20 on the sale. So I got more. I sold it, I got more. Now, why would I do that? Well, AMC are reporting their earnings reports. Their earnings report was delayed because of the coronavirus. It was. So here's why I'm doing that. The earnings report, especially when it's going to come after hours, that ends up being a gamble. Most companies talk about their earnings report after hours because if there's news in there that investors do not like, the stock can totally drop. And they want to slow that as much as possible. It can also go way up if the news is good, but then they typically share that news before the market closes because, they want people to buy the stock. I don't see any scenario where the numbers for AMC is good. I don't. So I anticipate this stock to take a nosedive tomorrow, or especially after the earnings report. So I decided, you know what? The shares are at a profit right now. I'm going to sell them. And once that dive comes, I will rebuy the same amount of shares for less money. And then I will have extra playing money to play around with. I will ultimately stick with AMC. I do think they will be fine. I think they will be fine in the long run, whether because they pull themselves out of it or because the movie studios help them out, which is another possibility. I think AMC will be okay. But I do believe the report is going to be ugly, and I even anticipate like maybe the dividends, which aren't much to begin with, it's like 2 cents a stock or something like that, will probably be cut because they have had virtually no money coming in. So I sold at $6.02 to protect my assets. And tomorrow, when it's down to like $5.20 or even $4.89, whatever it ends up dropping to, I will rebuy the shares, and I will have essentially protected $100. So that's the change that I made. You go back 3 months, I'm still up $1,500 since we started this experiment. So, positives. But now, let us talk with you guys. Now it's time for the live stream. So hopefully you've been leaving your comments, you've been asking questions, because we are going to get into that. We are going to get into that, and this is now our time. This is the time that does not get seen in the broken up video, so I'm looking forward to that. That I see quite a few comments. I see people that I really like here. I don't know if Sovereign Renaissance is still here. I do love him, even though, he left a snarky comment, but, I see KC here, and Chris Tampa is here, one of my mods. Oh, Driver Man, you know what? I think you should be a moderator. I think you should. It has been a minute. And we have Naz, the gig accountant. I'm glad he's here. Mark's here, and he's happy that I said Corona. Yeah, it just seems silly at this point. I mean, if the videos get demonetized, then we won't be saying that again anytime soon. But I'm going to trust that we're beyond this at this point. So, and let's see here. Chris's vlogs said politicians suck. Well, some of them certainly do. And Mark says Captain Obvious running Uber. Yep. Chris B. Tampa says it's total BS, just like Uber is. Hey, we've got Rideshare Lisa here. Welcome. And Lisa says they should offer health coverage and 401k plans. That would help a lot of drivers. They do have a health plan. The problem is the amount of time you have to put into Uber, into driving. It's way too much for that health plan to even be worth it for a lot of people. It really is. So they do and the health coverage isn't even that good, if you're being honest. So that's one thing they offer to say that they're the good guys, but they do it so half-baked that it's really like doing nothing at all. By the way, we have 21 people here. If you haven't given a thumbs up, please do. It helps us out. Mark said Trump's fault. Well, Trump messed up on a few things, but in terms of how the drivers were handled, hey, that's Uber's responsibility. That is Dara Khosrowshahi's. That is his. I don't know what this Trump's fault thing is all about, but I'm assuming it's about the letters. But Dara Khosrowshahi, that's his job to take care of the drivers. It's not Trump's fault responsibility. Dara is the one that could make things better for everyone, but he chooses not to. He basically only makes a change when it would make the company look bad to not make a change. And even then, even if it makes the company look bad, if it won't result in people quitting Uber or deleting Uber, then he will simply pass the buck off to the government. That's how he does it. So, Naz says the entire business model from these gig companies relies on screwing their workers, which is why you don't see them volunteering any substantial changes, because of course they wouldn't do that. They need these workers to be screwed to, to run their business. And Joe, you're no longer a member. Sorry to see that. Dark is a born liar. This man has no heart. He's like the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. Pretty much. Chris agrees with that. Lisa believes that a lot of it falls in the companies. I would say so too. And Chris says Trump won't forget, that's for sure. He will come after all the gig companies after bailing them out with unemployment. Believe me, I am not for Trump. So, basically what you're saying is you agree with me that Trump would do this. I think from the tone you're saying he should do that, but you're not a Trump supporter, which, by the way, that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. You can look at a politician and say, I hate that man. But hey, you're in a position of power and you're going to do something that I agree with, so yeah, go get him. So I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. At least I think I do. If I'm wrong, of course, you can correct me. Naz says, Uber can choose to classify their drivers as employees and give them independence and flexibility. False dilemma that they're advancing. Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that. Yeah, because Uber can give them, because, for example, my wife won't say where she works, of course, but she is a W-2, 40 hours a week, and she has quite a bit of flexibility. She can work from home. Technically, she can start early, she can start late, she can choose not to work the 40 hours a week if she wants. She does because she likes the benefits and everything, but she's given a lot of freedoms on how she works. Uber can do the same thing. They just don't want to. So Chris says, but he will. Love it, Kevin. Preach. What, credit Amazon? Good for Amazon. Yeah, I know. It's shocking that I can credit Amazon. Hey, Ryan, my longest Patreon member. Patreon and YouTube member. By the way, really appreciate your support, buddy. Looking forward to dinner with you whenever you come to Disneyland. I am doing fine. I'm definitely doing fine. We have Low Roller Scratcher here. And Chris is in agreement that shirt was disgusting. And saying, come on, people, discuss your thoughts on these subjects. You know, it's kind of interesting because when I don't have the article up, I notice people comment a lot more often. But, you know, when I'm saying like, hey, come on, talk about it, you know, we'll get to it at the end, people are kind of like, I think people are like, well, I'm not going to stick around till the end, so I'm not going to say anything. It's kind of a shame, but, you know, it might take some getting used to for people. I'm really liking this format so far. So we might be doing it for the long term. Who knows? Naz says Amazon needs to be broken up. I agree. Driverman says smash that like. Well, thank you. I agree with that too, if you happen to like the video. And Chris says, what are your thoughts of Uber and Grubhub? I think I kind of alluded to this during that section, but I don't agree with it. I think it would create a monopoly, so I don't agree with it too much. I'm glad the government's kind of stepping in and saying, no, you shouldn't do that. I wish they'd done that when Disney bought Fox. So, Low Roller Scratcher, you heard the story, customer order $300 worth of ramen noodles, and actually, yes. And I knew I was forgetting something. I knew I was forgetting something. Let me see if I can't find it. And we'll have one more little, we'll have one more section, if you will, topic, if you will. Let me make sure that this, okay, that's, so, all right. What was it? Sorry. Sorry, live. I'm going to take a drink. Hold on one second. All right, so several people wrote to me about this, particularly Low Roller Scratcher, and I have to admit, I was pretty upset about this too, and it highlights one more problem about Uber Eats that I think a lot of us overlook, and that is this story about an Uber Eats customer ordering a huge meal from this restaurant. The restaurant makes the food. It's almost $300 worth of food. And then, just because a driver had not been assigned to the restaurant yet, or hadn't gotten there, or something to that effect, the customer was able to cancel the order, basically wasting everyone's time and money. So let's look at this from Yahoo Life. And yeah, I still go to Yahoo. Is it crazy? An Uber Eats customer is facing backlash online over their handling of a nearly $300 food order. The situation, which spawned an in-depth discussion about who suffers when deliveries are canceled, was shared to Reddit's Well, That Sucks forum by a user named Ryu Araragi. In his post, the user explained that they had prepared $270 worth of ramen, fried chicken, pork dumplings, beef curry, and several other dishes for a customer who ordered via Uber Eats. On a side note, I was I don't know why the screen went blank. I'm sorry about that, folks. I was going to do tacos today. It is Taco Tuesday, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get some ramen now. Maybe I actually know how to make ramen. Maybe I'll make some ramen with meat in it. Shoot, that sounds really good. Okay, I don't know. Let's continue. Then the customer canceled their order at an extremely unideal time. Customer ordered all this food on Uber Eats and canceled the order the moment I finished making everything, the user wrote. The post sparked a wave of responses, with users criticizing the customer's wasted order and questioning how such a late cancellation was even possible. And, that's really rotten. People suck. F should be banned. I think we all know what that means, from the app. Now, thankfully, this person wasn't completely out, because the restaurant did get compensated from the order, but not from the customer. It was from Uber Eats. And also, they ended up giving away the food to, a local, employees at a local restaurant, maybe a food barter, something like that. And so it didn't go to waste. But that does raise, the question, it shows the murder that Uber can get away with. It shows the murder that customers get away with. They call and they order this food, and then they cancel. And then, in some cases, the driver doesn't even find out until after they've been assigned. Let me share you a story of a friend of mine. And for the record, I didn't do this. I'm not saying you should do this either. I'm just saying what my friend did. My friend, who did this a heck of a lot more than I did, and still does it to this day for that matter, his name's Jeff. He got an order on Postmates for a Vietnamese restaurant. Now, after a certain amount of time, Postmates is a lot more strict about canceling orders on their app. And the customer went to the app to try to cancel the order. And they couldn't do it. The app basically said, hey, you know what? They started making the food. It's too late to cancel the order. So the customer called the restaurant and said to the restaurant, I'm canceling my order. Please don't give any food to the driver. Now, that restaurant, agreed to it, basically not to tick the customer off, and also because, someone had ordered almost the exact same thing a few minutes later, so, that food could be repurposed, and there was nothing coming out of their pocket. But my friend, after getting there, and after, passing up I don't know how many orders, went to this restaurant. The restaurant owner told him that, hey, they called and they canceled the order. Friend was pissed. Friend was really pissed. But here's the thing. He did not get a cancellation request from Postmates. So, and again, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm making that very clear. This is probably a very douche thing to do, right? What my friend did. So, you got to decide whether or not this is moral on your own. I think it's funny. I don't think it's right, but I think it's funny. Well, my friend exited the restaurant and swiped that the order had been picked up. And he drove to the person's house. He waited there for 15 minutes. And then he marked the order as a no-show and collected his fee. Now, that, again, that's probably, in fact, I'm kind of curious in the comments section when I get back to it, whether or not you think that's a scummy thing to do. I don't know how I feel about it, because, it is kind of scummy to do, but then you read stories like this, and, is it any less scummy that people can cancel their orders and just, not pay for them and waste all this food, potentially? I actually think that, the cancellation thing should be a super restrictive thing. It should be super restrictive. And it's like, hey, you know what? You've probably got like a good, depending on what restaurant it is, you probably got five to 10 minutes that you can decide you don't want to do this. And basically, this is going to screw restaurants unless they're partnered with Uber or Postmates. Because I think once the food starts getting made, you know what? It's done. You can't cancel the order. You just can't. But that's not what's happening. Apparently, Uber is letting the food get all the way to the end, have it all get made, and just because they didn't assign a driver to it, that can then be canceled. And look, it's a wasted order. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that was an awful situation. I do know that customers can be quite, frankly, dishonest, and they can be pretty crummy too in response. Like the situation with my friend, like they waited some 20 minutes, decided, we don't want it anymore, and they wasted my friend's time. Well, technically not. My friend got paid, and he never told me if Postmates ever corrected him on that one. By the way, also disclaimer: if you get in trouble for this, you can get deactivated. So, yeah, I'm now leaning more and more like don't do this, even though it's really funny to think about. So, I don't know. It's just one more example, I think, of customers basically getting away with murder, and whether it be the restaurant or the driver, they get the short end of the stick. But I would like to know what you think about this, whether you agree that the customer should be banned from Uber Eats. I don't know what you think about my friend. Maybe you think my friend's a jerk. Maybe you think he's brilliant. I don't know. That would also be interesting. I think Jeff would really like to know what you think of his action. So, comment below, like, favorite, share, and all that jazz. So, okay, let's go back to the live stream. So, and it says YouTube not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So, I'm curious. So, is everything streaming all right for you guys over there? Who knows? Let's see here. Chris said, let me. Sorry, folks. So Chris says, and then making new numbers of the restaurants to order taking away from the restaurants. Of course, Uber resists. And Low Roller Scratcher says, stock market down 300 points today. Yep, that explains a lot. Ryan says, do you think that you will do a vlog on Universal Studios Hollywood the next time you go? I haven't decided. Probably not. Well, maybe I would. I mean, they're going to have a new ride next time I go there, so who knows? How do I get microcurrency? I don't know. I use apps. I use Robinhood. I use Stash. I've considered using Webull. So that's what I use. I also have Fidelity. That's like my personal stock portfolio, which is way beefier than the Robinhood one. But, we're doing that experiment right now. So that's, Oh, well, see you later, driver man. Glad that you could come. And Ryan says, I was bummed that I missed your stream yesterday. So happy that you were doing one today. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more streams in the future. We're going to I'm trying something now. So Naz says, apparently Uber offers free tuition at Arizona State University for you or a family member. Yeah, that's nice, but keep in mind, how do the drivers have enough time to go to school? Probably not. So that's one of the things. So let's see here. Lisa says, I wonder if Grubhub doesn't like Uber and that's why they won't sell to them. No, I think Grubhub is actually perfectly fine with being bought by Uber. That's kind of the American dream now. It used to be you take a business, you build it, you open a store. If it's successful, you open another store, and then you create like a franchise, and you create your little empire. Now the goal seems like, hey, there's big cats over there with millions and billions of dollars. Make a company that's enticing enough that they want to buy you, and then you can retire on an island early. So I think Grubhub just has some concerns, because why go through the process of trying to sell the company and then having to spend time and money arguing that it's not antitrust. And if you know right from the get-go, okay, there's aspects of this that could be antitrust, let's talk about them. I think that's what's going on. Christopher Sample, welcome, says, why would you invest in any transportation that involves people? We are transitioning into a work, stay-at-home economy. That's a good question, and you would have to ask the people who are invested, because I actually am no longer invested in Uber and Lyft. It got to a point where it's like, you know what? I see nothing good coming out of it. Not even for kicks and giggles do I want stock in this, so I just got rid of it. Leo Gomez says, hello from Chicago. Rideshare here sucks. Okay, welcome. I'm sorry it sucks over there. Ryan says, thanks. I am as well hopeful sometime in 2021. Christopher says, meat prices going through the roof. What will that do to restaurants and Uber Eats, Postmates, etc.? Well, it has the potential to make the vegan options a lot more enticing. That's what it... I kid, of course. I don't know exactly, because there's certain things that no matter what the price becomes, people are just going to, they're just going to do that. So anyway, all right. So Naz says Uber Eats shouldn't have allowed the customer to have canceled that order. That's on Uber. Yeah, I agree. Ryan says, me too. Disney really has butchered Fox so far. They really only wanted it for certain IPs, as you have mentioned in a few videos. Well, they also wanted to take out a competitor. Chris says, I have seen late at night, early morning, the surge is out of this world, and we look at the Rider app and it shows no drivers out there. That's why the surge is out of this world, because there's no drivers. Chris also says, that's not the right thing to do no matter if the order has been canceled. It has happened to me, and I, of course, got upset, but I messaged Uber Eats and let them know about the situation. That is stealing. So, yeah, that's a very valid opinion to have. Actually, it's not even an opinion. Yeah, pretty much it pretty much is stealing. The way Jeff explained it to me, and I'm just saying his words, I'm not saying I agree with this or not, but, there was... Because that order did not get canceled the proper way, he spent a lot of time driving around, not accepting other orders that he could have been paid for. And he got there, and basically they're saying, hey, you got to cancel right now because the customer doesn't want to do it. And so he took matters into his own hands. Now, as you said, that's stealing, and it probably wasn't the right thing. But I also think that when you have a system that pays as little as these companies do, really mess with your earnings to a big extent, that's what encourages this type of thing. So, I actually think the restaurant in that case should have said, no, we can't cancel it. It says here that we can't cancel it. And yeah, it would be nice for Jeff to have done the right thing, but nobody seems to do the right thing in this business. So there you go. Hey, Robin, how you doing? Rideshare Lisa says they need to warn the driver. I agree. Hey, Mark, how you doing? And Ryan says, have you been liking HBO Max more than Disney Plus so far? I saw your first impressions vlog, but I don't think that you've talked about your thoughts on it since. It's there. I've been using it, but that's the thing when it comes to these streaming services. After a while, they kind of just start to blend together, and you watch certain things that you like. But when it comes to functionality, except for Amazon Prime Video, which just totally sucks as an interface, it really doesn't make much of a difference when you get down to it. So, anyway, do we have any final questions? Any last comments before we end this little discussion? We got 5 topics covered today. 5. So there's going to be 5 smaller videos tomorrow. That's impressive. That's really impressive. Any final thoughts? Questions? Nope. Okay. In that case, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you for spending time with me. And for anyone who might be watching this in the future, if you watch the whole thing, hey, thank you for watching the whole thing. You would have had shorter videos you could watch tomorrow, but hey, I appreciate that nonetheless. I would like to know what you think about any of the things we talked about in the comment section below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.